One night, when I was 8 years old, my family and I were coming back home from a small trip to my uncle's house late at night. It was around 11 at night and there was barely any cars on the road. The road was dimly lit and it was a little chilly outside. But inside the car, you could hear my sister and I attempting to sing to our favorite songs while our parents laughed. A little past 40 minutes of driving, I noticed flashing lights up ahead. And without thinking too much into it, my sister and I continued to sing. But my parents' laughter stopped. As we continued driving a little more, the flashing lights became more bright and more started to appear. My dad turned down the music and we all became silent. My mom turned to my dad and said that it must have been an accident. As we got closer, we noticed that there were 2 ambulances, several police cars, and a fire truck. A bit past the ambulance, we saw several cars completely stopped in the middle of the road. As we approached the cars, we were forced to halt, and I took in my surroundings. The area was brightly lit, lights were everywhere, and so were police officers and firefighters. Then out of nowhere, my mom screamed. I turned to my mom and saw her staring into her left. I followed her eyes and saw several officers standing around something. Confused, I continued to try to find what made my mom scream. Unable to find it, I turned to my mom to ask her what she saw, but no words left my mouth as I saw my mom crying. I started to panic and again attempted to ask her what's wrong. I received no response. I turned to my dad to ask him what is going on, but he was just staring outside. A few seconds later, he turned to my mom and tried to calm her down. Confused and scared, I turned to my sister and saw the same emotions I was feeling on her face. I continued to look outside my window and scan the area. A little past us, I saw a motorcycle that seemed a little familiar. As I looked further on, I saw an 18-wheeler stop in the grass area past the emergency stopping lane. Then I saw 2 police officers standing over something. I tried to take a closer look and saw some type of stain on the road. I followed the stain on the road and saw that it led to something that was lying on the road. Suddenly, I felt something in my stomach and my heart started to race. A couple of other officers came to talk to the cops that were close to whatever was lying on the road. As they moved away, so did their shadow, and I was able to see what they were standing over. The realization hit me, and my sister and I screamed at what we saw. It was a body that seemed to be missing its leg, and the stains on the road were blood. I never cried so hard in my life, and I never wanted to erase something from my mind so badly. While we were all crying and my dad was trying to keep us calm, my mom started talking to my dad saying that it might be my other uncle who has the same motorcycle. I sat there frozen, contemplating what she said. My uncle? No way. Soon I heard my mom praying, begging God for it not to be her brother. The thought that my uncle might be that terrifying scene on the road never crossed my mind. Suddenly I understood why the motorcycle seemed so familiar. I started to feel nauseous and tears started streaming harder down my face. I turned to my sister and in a silent agreement passed over us. Her face dropped and all I saw were tears falling. My dad got out of the car and walked over to the police officers. We sat there watching him, crying and praying that it was not our uncle. After some time, my dad returned to the car. His face was emotionless and he was hard to read. My heart started to race and everything around me seemed to move in slow motion. He turned to my mom and whispered something. Her breathing slowed down and so did her tears. Suddenly, time seemed to return to normal. I turned to my dad and asked him the question I was dreading the most. Is it Chihuelito? Time slowed down again. My dad released a long sigh and the words I had been praying to hear escaped his mouth. No, it's not your uncle. Relief washed over me and my heart seemed to try to return to its normal beating. I was so happy that it was not my uncle, but suddenly an eerie feeling came over me. That body did not belong to my uncle, but it did belong to someone. I turned to look at the lifeless body again and the nauseous feeling returned. My dad gently told us to stop looking, and after 20 minutes, traffic resumed. Until this day, I cannot get that scene out of my head, and sadly, I think it's something I will never forget.